Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to do the method called complete the square. Now completing the square is not just used for solving quadratics, it will also help us later on to be able to sketch quadratic graphs. But today in this video I'm just going to focus on the completing the square technique. Very often in the exam you will know they will need to do this because they would say either complete the square or say they want it in this form. Now, the way we do this is I'm going to start by just focusing on these first two terms, not the plus 7. I don't focus on that to start with, just the x squared plus 8x. Now, this does not go into double brackets. If I had to factorise it, I would use a single bracket. But what I am going to do, I am going to force this into double brackets. To start off, what I do, I'm just going to start with an x. There's going to be a plus here because there's a plus here. And what I do is I take this number here and I divide it by 2. And I make sure there's a little squared sign just out. That's my first step. Now let's just see what I've created. X plus 4 squared is the same as x plus 4 times x plus 4. If I multiply these out, I get x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Now notice that these two terms here were the same. This is why I took this one here and divided it by 2. So I do have the x squared. I do have the 8x. But these are not equal because when I expand those brackets, I get this extra plus 16. So what I need to do is I need to cancel that out, and I do that by writing a minus 16 at the end. So the process of this first bit, there's a little phrase I use to help me remember what I did there. And that phrase is half the number in front of the x square it and take it away. Now that little phrase I will use a couple more times through this video. Half the number in front of the x, square it and take it away. Now, let me go back to the original question now so I can see how I'm going to deal with this and with the plus 7. I start off, I just focus on the first two terms. I'm going to get my bracket with my squared ready and my x, and there's a plus there, so I'll put a plus there. I halve the number in front of the x, square it and take it away. Then I just put the plus 7 at the end because I ignored it initially, so I ignore it until the very end and I just put it there. And then all I need to do is tidy up the last two terms. Minus 16 plus 7 is minus 9. And this is my final answer. It is in this form. A would be the number 4 and B would be the number -9. There are 3 marks available here. One is for making sure you half that number there and then square it and taking it away. Now, the second mark is for actually doing that correctly and making sure you get the signs correct. And the third mark is for the full simplification. I'm going to do a few more examples like that, and then I'm going to show you why this technique is actually called completing the square. So here are 3 more examples, and I've written at the top my key phrase. Half the number in front of the x, square it and take it away. And all of these, I want it in this form. Don't worry that there's a plus in both of them. It's okay that if we get answers that there's negatives there. Let's do the first one. First of all, I know I'm completing the square, so I'll get my bracket ready. Half the number in front of the x. Square it, so 1 times 1 is 1, and take it away. I just put the +6 at the end. And then I just need to simplify these two. -1 add 6 is 5. Okay, the next one. I'm going to get my bracket ready. Now this time, as there's a minus there, I will also put a minus here. The sign in here should always match the one in front of the x. Half the number in front of the x. Square it. Now -6 squared is positive 36. So that is why we always say take it away. It doesn't matter if this sign here is positive or negative, we always take away the square of this number. And then I put the +7 at the end. And I'm going to simplify the end. -36 plus 7 is -29. And I missed off my squared symbol just there. All right, let's do one more. Get the brackets ready and the x, minus there, minus there. Half the number in front of the x, square it and take it away, then put the number at the end just there. And then simplify the last two numbers. Now, for anyone who's interested, on the next piece of paper, you don't need to make notes on it. I am just going to explain why it's called complete the square. Okay, I'm going to focus on what I had in the first question I did, which was this. Now, this, as I mentioned earlier, could be the same as a single bracket factorising, which is like that. And when you multiply two things together, that's another way of working out an area. So I could say that this is the dimensions of this rectangle. So the area of this section is x squared, and this section is 8x. And if I add the two areas, I get x squared plus 8x. So what we've done is I'm actually going to cut this one in half. So this square is still the same, but I've cut it in half, so this length is always only 4. And that's there. It does help if I times them through together correctly. Now the bit I've cut off, I'm now just going to stick at the top. To make this here. So at the moment I still have an x squared plus 4x plus 4x, which is my x squared plus 8x, but I now have, so that bit length was 4, I can now complete the square. I've made this into a squared shape. X plus 4 are both the same. That makes a square. And therefore, I've got this area of 16 in the corner, which I did not want. So that means, to make sure these areas match, I have my x squared, so x plus 4, which is one side, square it as it's the length of the other, and then I'm going to take away the 16. So the area of this square equals that one because I'm removing the square in the corner. So I completed the square, and then I'm going to make sure the areas match.